Hey, Richard here from the Tennis Hacker. In this video, I'm going to answer the question, why am I not getting better at tennis? Why am I not improving? This was something that I struggled with for a long time. I started playing tennis as a junior, so when I was 8, and I played all the way through, and I improved and I got to a certain point, and then I just plateaued, and it didn't seem to matter how much I practiced or how hard I worked on my game. I just couldn't get past a certain point. And this is something I hear from a lot of other players as well. When people start playing, especially when people start playing as an adult, it is very common for them to improve quickly at the start. So the first 1, 2, 3 years, there's kind of this linear upwards trajectory where people really start to develop their game and they get much better. But then things stop, things plateau, people stop improving. Now this happens at a different level for different people. For some people they get stuck at the 3-0s, for some people it's the 4-0s, for some people it's the 4-5s, and then they just cannot get past that point. Doesn't matter how much they practice, doesn't matter how much they spend on tennis lessons, how many YouTube videos they watch, what they do with their string tension, what different rackets they try, they just stay at the same level. So I've made this video to help you understand why that is. I've got both bad news and good news for you, but I'm making this video because I want to help you improve. Like I said, I know what it's like to be a player that's frustrated, and there are things that you can do to change it. You just have to look at things a little bit differently. Okay, so let's start by giving you the bad news, and then I'll talk about the good news. The bad news is the reason that you're not improving is because you've probably maxed out your ability level. Now this can mean a lot of different things for different people because there are multiple different physical attributes that are going to be important for playing tennis. Now with that said, some are way more important than others. You know, speed is important, flexibility is important, so potentially those things might be holding you back. But there are a lot of fast and flexible people that don't become very good at tennis. Because ultimately the thing that really kind of decides how good people get is their skill, their hand-to-eye coordination and their foot-to-eye coordination. Tennis is a really hard sport. The people that we see playing on TV are ridiculous athletes with unbelievable levels of coordination. Realistically, everything in tennis comes down to your ability to control the angle of the racket face at the moment of contact. We have certain techniques, modern techniques have developed to increase the likelihood, to give us better chances of doing certain things. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to whether you can accurately see the ball, predict where it's going, set up in the right position with your feet, and then control the angle of the racket face. Every shot is different. No two shots are the same, which means that you have to react on the ball based on the situation, which means you have to make micro adjustments for every single shot. In order to do that, you need two things. You need to have a really highly functioning visual system, and you need to have great levels of coordination, and then they've got to work together. So it all starts with vision. The reality is that you can only play at the level that your visual system will allow, and this is something that held me back for a long time. You need to be able to try and react to the ball as quickly as possible, and then you have to predict where the ball's going, and that's going to be really important because you have to be able to judge distance really well. You have to have amazing visual spatial awareness, and if you don't have those things, it's going to be really hard for you to set up in the right position. And this is something that I used to struggle with. One of my biggest problems was I would get too close to the ball, and because I got too close to the ball, I couldn't develop optimal biomechanics, and it would cause me to miss a lot of shots. Along with that really comes the timing and the depth judgment side of things. And if you don't have the ability to judge distance and depth accurately, it is really hard to get good timing. It's basically impossible to time the ball well consistently. And again, that's another thing that I used to struggle with. I was basically a grinder, I was a pusher, because as soon as I tried to attack, I couldn't do it because my timing wasn't good enough. I was too close and I was hitting the ball late, and because of that, I couldn't use optimal biomechanics. So it all starts with the visual system. Can you predict where the ball's going to go? Can you judge distance? Can you judge depth? Do you have good timing? Do you have spatial awareness? Also, how are your eye movements? Do you have the ability to track the ball moving in different directions? This is another thing that I used to struggle with, and it's something that I see a lot of other people struggling with. All these things are going to basically cap off your ability to improve at tennis. So the visual side of things is really important, and here's where the first bit of good news comes in. You can train your visual system. This is something that I learned about when I was 35. So I started playing tennis when I was 8. From the age of 15, 16, I was okay, but I didn't get past a certain point, and then I stayed the same till I was about 35. I started to learn about vision training. I corrected a bunch of visual deficits that I had, and almost overnight, within the space of a couple of months, I was a very different player. Ability to track the ball went up significantly, ability to time went up dramatically, and that really allowed me to sort out my spacing and some of the other things that were going on, and I was able to become a much better player. And that's why one of the big areas that I help players with is the vision side of things, and I've created a free vision training program to help you. There's a link down in the description that you can, it's going to take you over to a page. You can download that. It takes around 5 or 6 minutes. Just start working on it. Work on this program, do it once a day, do it twice a day for a couple of weeks, and you'll notice things changing. You will start to improve. You will not suddenly become Federer or Nadal or Djokovic or any of these players. That's not how it works. But you'll start to track the ball better, you'll start to have better timing, and it will start to help you on that process towards becoming a better player. And then we've got the movement side of things. In order to be able to control your racket on all the different shots, whether it's a forehand, a backhand, the high ball, the low ball, the volleys, the serves, the overheads, you need to have unbelievable levels of coordination. And just like we said with the vision, if you can't control a body movement without the ball there, you're not suddenly going to develop the ability to have amazing levels of control when you step on a tennis court. That's not the way it works. One of the big differences that I've been able to see working with lots of different levels of player up until professional players is the higher the level of the player, the more control they have over the body. When you take your average 3-0 or 3-5 or 4-0 level player and you ask them to create a coordinated body movement, so like a simple movement might be asking them to make a wrist circle. Lower level players have really poor control over their body. Another classic one is going to be trying to get people to control their shoulder blades. So what looks like a simple movement, or should be a simple movement that everyone can do, a lot of players kind of really aren't able to make it happen. Another area where people struggle, controlling their wrist. So a simple pelvic circle that everybody should be able to do, lower level players really struggle with those movements. And kind of think about what I've just chosen there. I've chosen wrist movements. That's an area where people struggle with. You need to be able to control your wrist. Shoulder blades, shoulder movements. Again, that's going to be hugely important for hitting different shots. Pelvic control. Again, the pelvis is what drives the movement and starts the rotation. If you don't have the ability to control those things, you don't have the coordination, you're not going to suddenly step on the tennis court and be an amazing player. And again, this is the stuff that applied to me. I just didn't have a visual system that was functioning well enough, but I also didn't have enough coordination. I was strong, I was fit, I was fast, I had a lot of physical attributes that were good, but I didn't have the level of coordination that was required. And again, this is going to factor into your ability to hit with speed. The way that humans are designed, the faster you try and do something, the more chance you've got of getting it wrong. So if you're not coordinated, like a lot of people, and like I wasn't coordinated enough, you try and hit with more power and you just can't control things, you make mistakes. Whereas when you're really coordinated, like the people you see on TV, they can do things at speed without making the same mistakes. So you need to have really good coordination to get really good at tennis. And again, this is where the good news comes in. You can train your visual system and you can make that better. You can also train coordination and make huge changes in your ability to control your body. Now, I don't have a free program available for this one because it is a bit longer and it takes a bit more explaining, but I do have programs that teach players how to do this. If you are interested in learning more about training your coordination, then there's another link down below that's going to allow you to schedule a free chat with me. I can learn more about your game, see if I think I can help, and then kind of explain how things work, and we can take things from there.